Hello, everybody. It's so good to be back in the studio of Into the Score after a long hiatus. And we're here again talking to very interesting people about any type of subject, especially from the arts and culture industry. My name is Avishai Darash. I'm your host for this podcast. And today I have with me the fantastic Dominique. How's it going, man?
It's going well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, actually.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. Dominique, tell me a little bit about, what brought you actually to percussion. What is the reason that you started with and expanded later? What is your, let's say, upbringing with that?
Yeah, so I'm from a very small village in the south of Netherlands, and we have all these wind bands there. And I went, actually, it was very funny. I went to a concert of the local wind band and I saw the drummer and I was like, I want to be that drummer. I want to play the drums. So it's a very rich culture, actually, that we have in the Netherlands. There's so much amateur art basically still going on and a lot of percussion groups. And then I went down that rabbit hole of starting with the little snare drum and went to the drum kit and then to the marimba and to the vibraphone. And this is opening this whole world of sounds. So that was my start. And it's a lot of fun. I love it.
And you were in the classical department in the conservatorium, right? In Amsterdam.
Yes, true.
Was it something like a trajectory that you planned for, or was it like someone told you at some point, listen, if you actually want to be, let's say, a well-rounded, accomplished musician, it's good if you go into classical route so you can read, so you can actually function in an ensemble, or was it something that came from you?
Well, I think for my... I actually started in a music school, local music school, and they had a talent class. And then that went quite well, and I did a little competition, a local competition. And then someone saw me, and he said, hey, my son is teaching at the Conservatory of Amsterdam. If you want to go further with this, you might want to make this step. And I had no clue. My parents had no clue. So that's a kind of a way how I rolled into that world. Then I auditioned for Utrecht, Rotterdam, and Amsterdam. In Rotterdam, I was rejected, actually. And then in Amsterdam, I was accepted, luckily, and I started my studies there. But this whole, these stepping stones are very important for young artists, that you actually have this path set up for you in the society.
What do you mean?
Well, if you miss out, for example, one of those steps, like if the music school wasn't there, or the wind band wasn't there, or that person who saw me on this little competition, or if that person wouldn't have organized this little competition, I wouldn't have met that. So there's a lot of factors that if you come from a family that is not in the arts or are musicians, then somehow you need to find that path. That path needs to find you, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like what you're saying now, that the path finds you, because it's a tough path. Let's just make it clear. Tough in the sense of there is not much security in it. It's not, it's being seen also in society as like, oh, you're a musician, so you play in the street,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Even if you do big projects or this, for people that are not connected necessarily to this world, it's such an esoteric perception of like what it means to be a professional. And I believe that the passion, we were just talking about it, also I was talking about with Joao before, that the passion is something that keeps us in it until it becomes our profession.
I hope that the passion goes on into your profession, of course. But I think that's the beauty of it. Like for everybody, like even if you're not in the arts, like what is that? What is your passion? I find that very interesting. Like you see a lot of young artists and they just love their instrument, or they love a certain music style, or but there are other people who love painting. There are other people who love maybe being a lawyer and figuring out what that's. So and other like to be a doctor. So this passion, I think if we can pursue this passion in our lives, that's actually what you want. And for me, that passion was any kind of drum and music, basically.
Yeah. And was it like a process for you to learn how to practice your instrument, or was it just a natural thing that happened? Maybe it sounds like a bizarre question, but it's the practicing is such an integral part of playing the instrument. It's not that you just play it.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, when you want to get to a certain level, there needs to be a certain type of natural talent, I would say. But like how easy it is for you to play a new instrument, or how easy it is for you to develop a new technique or something. I guess that's what we call talent, maybe. But you also need the right teachers and the right guidance of what technique you're actually learning, because there's so many different kind of techniques, and which one fits to your body. And also you hope that you find people that are open for that, and that let you also experience like what technique fits with you as a person.
Yeah, because what do you mean with natural talent? That's the reason I'm asking. It's like throughout this podcast, like a lot of the same terms are coming up. Passion, natural talent, devotion, dedication, all that stuff. In your world, what does it actually mean for you? Natural talent.
Yeah, I guess it's on multiple aspects. Like it's on a musical aspect of how fast are you at like working with material, or how musical are you, but also just in percussion is a very physical instrument. So how easy is it for you to move your right and left hand after each other, for example? And some people are just naturally better at it. Like it's the same with sports. Some people have this thing that just clicks.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean if you don't have that physical aspect that you cannot be an interesting artist or an interesting percussionist or something. But I think there are certain parameters that you want to develop.
Yeah. So take me to you're moving out from the small village. Which village was it?
It was called Alt-Weerderheide.
Alt-Weerderheide.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like 1,000 people live there. So so you see, like, it's so rich that there's actually an orchestra of 60 people. From those 1,000 people, 60 people are forming an orchestra, and every village has that. So that's I think that's a very rich culture, which I'm actually neglecting a bit at the moment. My parents, my family, nobody is a musician, or my uncle played a bit of percussion, but for the rest, nobody. So it was for them also like, are you sure? Are you going to go into music? Are you, you could also be an accountant, or I was good with numbers, but so I went to this talent class, I went to this other teacher, and then I auditioned, and then I went to Amsterdam when I was 17 to go full on in the school for 6 years. And then that process on the school started, where you get in this kind of like, I would say a bubble, at least at the classical department. It felt sometimes like a bubble that has good and negative aspects, of course. But you could really dive in deep in learning the handcraft.
Yeah. That's actually what. It's funny because the bubble is everywhere in every department. Also in the jazz, I was in the jazz department. It's everywhere because of the circumstances. You have all of a sudden all the freedom. You have the facilities to practice, and you have all the freedom to practice within classes, of course, and the community. So you put all these factors together. And I mean, I barely heard Dutch in my time there.
Yeah,
just
totally,
imagine, because it was 12 hours a day, getting up in the morning, going there, practicing, leaving when it's like almost, closing the door. How crucial is that process to mastering your instrument?
I mean, if you want to become really good at your instrument, you need to make hours. It's very simple, and you need to do the hard work.
Yeah.
So if the question is how important is that to learn the instrument, very important. If the question will be how important is it to be an interesting artist, I might now also think, well, you could also find a different path. You don't necessarily need to be like the master of your instrument to be an interesting artist. There are a lot of ways to actually do something interesting. But on the conservatory, I think you go to a conservatory to learn these skills and
Right.
the handcraft, I always call them. Like you want to really know how to play each instrument and how to phrase and what music, and you want to have your background. And when you're done, you can actually have a big package of material to work with.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I see the conservatory as really this paying your dues, your technical dues, in the sense of there is, let's say, the infrastructure for you as a student to sit and practice a lot and really go deep in the semantics and into the small details of the instrument. Later, after the conservatory, then there's the market. There is
exactly.
like there is like you needing to, or not needing, but let's say there has to be some flexibility or concession making in terms of how do I fit into it so I can make a sustainable career out of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think it's fine that in the conservatory, especially in the bachelor, you just focus on yourself and your playing. But I still have this question, like how much should we focus on these skills or handcraft, and how much should be focused on being creative and going to concerts? You know, I play a lot of concerts also in Amsterdam, and then I play in the Main Concertgebouw, a new concerto, or I just did a show in Bellevue with a dancer together, and then I don't see students there. And I actually invited them via WhatsApp, you know, which is when I was practicing, I also didn't. I went when there was a percussion concert. I went, but in general, I've never been to the opera or something in the first 4 years,
Really?
which is ridiculous.
Wow.
You know, you're so stuck in this department that, it's important to also have moments in the year or in the curriculum, I would say, where you focus on that creativity and let it spark and figure out what is it actually that what do you like, and what music do you like. And I think that that needs a bit of work still.
Yeah, I wonder if it maybe has to do with the fact of students feeling very saturated.
Also, yeah, I mean, it's a very demanding studies. Like I
I was tired most of the time. That's what I remember. It was just you're 10 to 12 hours a day in the building, in the conservatory, which has mostly artificial air in it also. These like rooms, and you're practicing. And then on top of it, there's, of course, race dynamics between everybody. There's hierarchy, you know, we're animals. There's like people are talking about him or talking about her, and they are rising up in the ranks, let's say. And there are people that are more patient, there are people that are impatient. And then you have all the courses on top of it. And then on top of it, you have to like go and have like open ears and clean ears to go and listen to concerts.
But all that you're describing is a decision of the school. It's not a decision of the student. It's a decision of the curriculum. So, like the students, they just follow the path basically. You know.
Yeah.
So, but I wonder if you could also say, okay, January is the month where there are no classes, and you have to go see 3 or 4 performances and make some idea or sketch something yourself.
Yeah. Do you think it's really like a case by case thing? Because I saw it also in Berlin. I saw it in Paris. I saw it. Is it let's say a conventional construction of a conservatory curriculum, or is it something that is really case by case to the conservatory?
Well, you know, if I speak from the percussion side, if you look at what jobs there are, because we want to move to the professional field, of course, in the end, that's the goal of why you study somewhere. And then they compare it with a classical artist, like whether it's an orchestra musician, okay, then you just have to indeed have these skill sets. So on the moment you need to play this, it has to be 100% like there. If you talk about a soloist, like if you have a cello or a cellist or a violinist, they have to master the Beethoven, the Mendelssohn, you know, all this repertoire. But percussion doesn't have this repertoire. So the kind of classical soloist percussionist doesn't really exist. So there's another side of which you could go into it, which is more the theater side or the creator side, maker, like being a percussionist maker or being a musician maker. And I think that's the thing that is developing rapidly. I see it in the last 10 years that a lot of people around me started composing, working together with composers, making their own programs, thinking about, oh, this venue does that, so I could offer this. The people around me love this, so I'm going to make something with that. Right. And I think that's maybe a second line that we could focus on more in the studies also. I don't know. I don't have the answer to it, but what I see is that a lot of creative people then learn all these skills and then maybe don't want to end up in an orchestra, then start teaching, for example, to earn the money and then have less time to develop something new.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, let them we have a very nice Dutch word. It's called aanklooien.
Aanklooien, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you just start doing stuff and then maybe something.
Let them fool around, yeah.
Fool around. Yeah, fool around is a good one. Yeah. And there are some institutions now that I work a lot with Muziekgebouw in Amsterdam, and they just say, yeah, just come 4 days and
Do like a residency,
and you can do some enclooien, you know.
Yeah.
And it's very nice because you can just experiment and figure out what you like, and I think that's so important.
Yeah, and this is also where the brilliant ideas come from, you know, because there are so many different, let's say, stromen, like streams that are happening in the creative business or creative process. What I was missing actually in the conservatory, integral part for the professional market afterwards, is which kind of audience are you making your work for? Without an audience, you're not going to sell tickets. Without selling tickets, no one is going to come. And this is not sustainable.
It's also a good question, like, do you make something for the audience, or do you make something and the audience has to be found still, you know? Like, I think a lot of brilliant artists, they just started making, and then suddenly, in the beginning, nobody understood it, and then suddenly an audience said, like, oh, wow, you got like the first group of people that started to like it, and then it started to evolve, and then it actually changed something. So, I sometimes in my projects also think about, okay, this is the target audience, this is this and this, but then I also think, like, no, man, I just want to make what I want to make, and someone needs to like this, but I need to figure out who's that someone. So it's in a world now where it's a lot about, well, capitalism is there, and it's a lot of questions that I get from programmers is, okay, that's a really cool idea, but how do we sell tickets for that? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm not a marketeer, that's your job. So if we don't have this kind of freedom and creativity anymore, then what are we doing in the world? You know, that's what makes us happy. That's what we want. We want to figure out who we are. And I think that's also what you see back in society, that a lot of people feel lonely, or they don't know what their purpose is. And that's a lot of times because of these kind of questions, where you immediately put a border, like, yeah, but wait a second, it has to sell tickets. Well, or not.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Where's the line between catering completely to the audience, doing something that is like, let's say, only commercial work, and self-indulgence? Where is that balance? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's difficult, but I think that's the magic of where you and you can also say, okay, I do one project a year or one project every 3 years that is more commercial, and I earn more money with that, and then that gives me freedom to also just not do something, like to just do, like, indeed, like, do that experiment and make something new and see if anyone likes it. Maybe it ends up with nothing. So or what you see a lot of people also do is they get a kind of stable job next to it, and then that gives them freedom to just be a maker and keep on making stuff, and then the ticket sale doesn't really matter to them. So it's choice. It's also, what do you love to play for 1,000 or 5,000 people, and do you want that kind of attention, or do you just want to be with yourself and your art? It's all fine.
Yeah, I it's interesting, because I believe that if you build it, they will come thing. I really believe that's like really something that I go with. The thing is that it needs to get to the right people. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not so much, I understand completely what you said about, okay, do we do it for the audience, or do we find the audience that is fitting for? I'm really for the latter, in the sense of, let's find the right people to come to it. Because there are a lot of people in the world, a tremendous amount of people in the world. There are people that would dig what you're doing, regardless of if you are catering to them or not. There are people, it's like, if it's done from a place of deep practice, deep research, coming from an honest, authentic place, it's going to resonate with other people.
Exactly.
100%.
But I do understand it. I'm now also, I started as an artistic director of the Tromp Festival. Not Trump, but Tromp in Eindhoven. And it's actually the biggest competition and percussion festival in the world. So it's very interesting to see it from the other side. And,
from the organizational more.
And how much offer you get, and how much it's also like, okay, we have then 80K budget or whatever. I don't know, like, give an example. And then, okay, so if I book this artist, then I need to sell 250 tickets, otherwise I'm starting to lose money. So what if we only sell 50? Okay, then I lose 5K. So if I have 5K less, I cannot book the other artist.
Yeah.
So I understand the struggle that venues are in. But I sometimes also think, like with percussion, that there's a lot of audience for it, and people love it when they go to the concert. But then, where's the next thing? You know, you have piano series in the classical world, you have violin series, orchestras have like a cellist coming, but then they have maybe once every season in a hall they have a percussion thing, and the audience is like, okay, I want to see this again, and I'm like, yeah, so maybe next year, you know. So I think it's also about building up your own audience and building. I think that's something you could do alone or with a community.
Yeah, no, the community is really important. It's these type of things. I would love to be a fly on the wall of these type of budget conversations too, because I'm sure it doesn't come from a malicious place. It just comes really from budgetary constraints and being like, I love this. How can we make this happen? And then reality comes, and it's like resources don't allow it, and the resources. You know, I mean, here there's there are amazing structures here in the Netherlands with subsidies and, you know, government funding and everything. At the same time, that has to resonate with the audience. I mean, because then it's just money down. Like you can do like a huge festival and you don't have enough quota from the people coming. It's not. The interest from the audience is
exactly
not popular. Yeah.
I mean, this is a very practical side, of course, but we have been through budget cuts, COVID, and all the costs have been like rising really a lot for the venues also. So
the inflation, basically.
I try to understand what their perspective is and what their problems are, and I think that's where you as an artist can also help. Ask them like, okay, what are you looking for? Yeah. So instead of asking like, what is the audience looking for, you could also go to the venue and say, listen, I'm a creative maker. I'm really good at my instrument. How can we create something that works for all of us? Yeah. So, for example, I'm now developing a project with the Muziekgebouw in Amsterdam, the Effenaar in Eindhoven, Eurosonic Noorderslag in Groningen, and Adam's Musical Instruments, and also Birds of Paradise Festival in Utrecht, which is a new project called OKAI, which is a mobile concert venue, basically. So people go in and they make their own songs with all this, with technology, basically. People can perform in there. And that was a project that started as a kind of like, let's see what happens with the Muziekgebouw. And we were like, okay, we want to make an installation in the hall and then it has to be on stage. And he was like, wait a second, our stage is always really full. It's like fully booked. So why don't you just make it in the foyer or like on the walls or something? And then we were like, yeah, why not actually? And then because we had this space of experimenting, we started to think, what if it would be outside? And then, you know, and then we thought, no, but if it's raining, it doesn't work. What if we put it in a container? So now we're going to buy this huge ass container from China, which is expandable, and you basically get a new concert venue stage. So cool. Each hall, festival, whatever, can just book that stage basically, and it's a traveling venue.
Oh, that's awesome.
So from that creativeness and it gives it's not for me. It's cool as an artist to work now because I'm very interested in technology and all these generative art basically and generative music, but it will serve as a place where a lot of musicians can actually play and find you open the walls of the container and it's a stage for 300 people. So a lot of young artists can actually perform in there, experiment, and then it won't be as much about ticket sales because it's more of a community thing. So I think there's a lot of a lot of artists have so much creativity. So go out there and ask, like, how can I help? How can I create something?
Yeah, that's a very good tip. That's a very good tip because there's a lot of there's this misconception of. I saw that in the conservatory. I don't know if in the classical department that was like this, but in the jazz, it's like, you know, you work very hard, you practice in this, and then the world just needs to give you what you want.
Yeah,
you know?
That's classic.
It's like I have arrived. My
Yeah.
talent is, is A, B, C, D, E, whatever superlative you want to attach to it. And that's why I am entitled to get all these opportunities. I was one of those people, I was like, man, I'm the shit and this and that. And then you realize like, oh, he's also the shit and she's also the shit and everybody's the shit. And it's like, okay, so what makes me unique? And then
exactly.
this is a very unique approach to be like, how can I actually make your life easier? You know, instead of give me,
Because for you, it doesn't matter if you play in place A or B or C. You just want to play your music and your instrument. Basically.
Exactly.
So you still do your passion, but you also do it in a way that is creative, so it helps others also.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's for fundings the same. In Netherlands, we have a lot of fundings. You can, I don't say you should make something that for the fundings, but you could look at what are the problems in the city that I live in. Like in Amsterdam, we have not as much art in Amsterdam Southeast or in New West.
Yeah.
So why not make something in that area?
Yeah.
Why want to go for a Bimhuis again or a Concertgebouw or Muziekgebouw?
Yeah.
It's cool, but it's also nice to work with people in different areas.
Yeah.
Like we did a project in Macam. It's a very nice place. You should all go there.
From the Andalusisch Orkest.
Yeah, with people
with
from
Yassine,
Amsterdam. Yeah, exactly. And we just improvised, and we had a few evenings there. Also with Morocco, I went to Morocco for a study trip. That's why I kind of connected with them.
Did you do it through AFK?
No, we didn't get AFK, but we.
No, I'm saying like the stipendium. Did you do it through a stipendium?
No, actually, this was 6 other fundings that we applied for, and but it was a long road to get this funding, like to make it work. But I think that was so nice. We performed there, and we were just experimenting and making, making fun with the people there. At a certain moment, the people in the audience started to take our instruments and play, and I thought, indeed, these people from this rich culture, they know how to clap, they know how to play these instruments, and it became a kind of jam session together with them. So
you came in contact with Gnawa also and Shabi music.
We worked with in the end with Medina Suli.
It's a very close friend. Yes.
Oh yeah. He's a
produced a
great
bunch
artist.
of albums.
It was a lot of fun to dive into that world, and that also came from I just wanted to explore. What is Morocco like? What is the like a lot of?
How long ago was that?
The project was November 2023, so it's only 1 year. And then I went to the Gnawa Festival in Essaouira.
Yeah, Essaouira.
So that also, if you're interested in something, just go do it, and then create an interesting program from it, and you will find places where you can perform it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's also another thing. There's that. I'm very much a big believer in that thing of paying your dues, in the sense of if you are staying in such a crazy business like creative arts and you're surviving and you're doing this and you're sustaining yourself, you're doing something right. You know, that if you're doing something right, it means that there is already like this ethereal connection between you as the artist and the audience. Also, there is something. There is. I'm a big believer, and I champion that also, of like what we're creating actually is more, it's through us, not for us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you have a concept, you have an idea, you're putting it out there, it's because it needs to be made. Not necessarily that, look at me, that vanity, because you wouldn't put that much hard work and have the humility that it requires to be a great instrumentalist. You need to have like a very basic level of, nederigheid.
Yeah.
That it's...
Yeah.
To be able to continue doing that.
But I do also see in the classical world, my wife, she's a conductor, so I travel a lot with her also. I meet also big, like famous artists, who perform at all the major stages. And I also see sometimes artists, and I'm like, oh yeah, you really do it for the fame, you really... Yeah. And there are paths. So if you're a pianist, if you're a classical pianist, there's a path. You can indeed go to the competitions and then win the competition and then get more gigs, get a management, then go into the orchestra scene where you perform 10 times in an orchestra per year, and you have this piano series where you go. So there's a lot of people that follow that path basically, and that's basically the old way of being a classical soloist, which is nice, it's great. But for me as a percussionist, that didn't exist. That doesn't exist actually. There's not really a path you can follow if you want to go into that direction. So it's also a bit stubborn to just say, okay, I'm not going to go to the orchestra. I'm not going to go for this teaching job or in the theater ensemble or whatever. I just want to make my own stuff. Which, yeah, it's also like, okay, nice. And then all these problems suddenly and all these barriers are suddenly facing you. Like, okay, but how this, how that, how that?
Yeah.
And I have a lot of young people that see what I'm doing and they want to do the same or something similar. But yeah, they just don't know how. So I try to coach them and try to show them how it's done. But it's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, if it was easy, you know, let me ask you this. If you, I was talking about with a student, she came up to me and she said, I saw you playing and I would love to play like you. And I'm like, do you have 10 years?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah.
And then we started to work on it. And she, of course, she hit barriers. It's like always, you know. And then she was talking about feeling discouraged or like, wow, it's such a long process. And I told her, how would you feel actually if you woke up tomorrow and you could play like me? Would it be worth it? She said, no, actually, it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
So actually the process of sacrifice, the process of putting all that time and growing with it, maturing with it is worth it.
Yeah,
in the
true.
long process.
Yeah, and you need these kind of little success moments on the road or need these people that support you. And there are a lot of people that want to help.
Yeah.
So my advice would be always ask for advice. Never ask, like, can you do this for me? No, just if you are a musician and you want to know more, just think, okay, that person knows something. I'm gonna send an email and just ask, could I ask for advice once? It's the most easy way to connect with people, and people want to help. So in that way you can find a path, and they will connect you with someone again, and that's
absolutely.
how the ball starts to roll.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. Also, the thing that it's a community thing. You know? It's a we got to stick together. Sometimes I see, you know, see people not helping each other. You know, and I understand, like, sometimes people are like, even I also sinned in that, in the sense of it took me years to build a contact with someone, and someone is just like, hey, can I have his contact details? And I'm like, you need to go through the normal channels.
Yeah, but that's also not the right
person.
question. Like, can I have his contact details? And you would say, hey, can I ask you for advice? I have this project and I really love to do this and this and this and this. And this is why I want to do it. And I miss this still. Do you know anyone who wants to help? And I know you know that person. Would that be someone who could help me? And then you'll be like, bro, that's a good idea. I'm gonna forward this.
Exactly.
So and then you forward it to that person, and that person can decide if they get in contact. But it's not easy fixes are not existing. It's you have to put in the work.
I always think, like, there's no free lunch, and easy fixes make big problems later on.
Yeah.
You know, because it's, again, like I said, paying your dues, in the sense of, if, for instance, I give the example of the BIM house. I wanted to play there in 2018. I made the contact with the programmer. He rejected me. Really, like, it was painful how he rejected me. Also, it was like, you should play in bars before you think of playing in the BIM house and stuff. And then fast forward, I played a few times under my name there, but like in connection to other institutions. And then for the first time, it was 9th of January now, that I play really just under my name.
Yeah,
you know?
nice.
And we almost sold out the whole place.
Yeah.
And it was this feeling of, like, overwinning, you know?
Yeah, like a mountain. Like you stand on top of the mountain. Like I reached the goal. This is a milestone. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's like a dream literally a dream coming true. Literally,
congrats,
when I was
man. Nice.
thanks. When I moved to the city, and it was like a dream. But very important. There's a big but in it. I had to go through all this process.
Yeah.
If he just gave it to me in 2018, the place would have been empty, and it would have been the relationship would have. But if his rejection actually decided for me the course of action that I'm going to take, by being either offended or being like, you know, I'm never going to, that happens a lot, the ego of the artist.
It shows a lot of character that you actually just went on and like, okay, I'm going to prove something.
I always say it also to younger, and I wish I could tell it to myself, you know?
Yeah.
No means not yet. It doesn't mean no forever. It doesn't mean I will never. It means not yet. Our
Yeah.
business is so crazy.
And ask why. Like ask.
Absolutely.
Okay, no. Okay, why? And then just ask. Like, be curious. Like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. But why? Don't be
But-
offended.
It's interesting because I recently I had a conversation with an agent because I wanted him to take like France and the territory, and I sent him my music and was like, yeah, it sounds good in this, but you're all men. I cannot book all men.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, that's a very constructive criticism.
Yeah.
You know. It has nothing to do with the music. He said, I don't care about the music. I don't care. You look good, all good, this, but you're all men. I
Yeah.
can't book all men. I need a woman in it, you know? I was like, okay, wow. Gender politics, you know, all that stuff. That is also a factor.
How plays a role, and that's also cool, and it's fine. And something to think about, of course. But it's what you say. The valuable thing was that person actually was honest to you and said, this is the reason, because I won't get any traction if I don't have that.
Yeah.
So
What? Okay, so tell me now, what is, because I have some questions. First of all, you're very physical in your performances, like from what I saw, like very physical, especially with the project that you have with the breakdancer.
yeah.
Was it also something that you grew up with, the physicality of it? Because you move great. I mean, it's like...
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
No, really, like, I mean, he is a professional dancer, from what I saw.
Yeah.
And then I was like, if I have to do this, I'm going to throw my back.
Yeah. No, this was the next step. I mean, I started, his name is Redo. I started working with him in 2020. He won the Swan of the Dutch Dance Days, which is the most prestigious classical prize for dancers, but he's a break dancer.
Cool.
And I won the Dutch Music Prize for classical musicians, but I'm a percussionist, so it was the first time. So we were kind of like weird people within that group of prize winners, basically. So someone put us together, and we started to explore like that. We were talking about, and we said like that we both had this feeling sometimes that we were put in a box, and that we never really fit into that box. Like even with this prize, we didn't really fit into that specific box.
Is it one from FPK?
Yeah, exactly. So percussion is a very physical instrument, and the collaboration with Redo specifically started because he won the Swan of the Dutch Dance Days in 2019, and I won the Dutch Music Prize, for both very classical prizes, and we both didn't really fit into. Well, we kind of fit, but also didn't fit in that world. So we started to talk about blurring the lines and how you sometimes get like put in the box, or like something. This is a urban dance show, or this is a percussion, whatever. So it's like, no, it's none of that actually. So, and we started to look for the blurring those lines even further, and that dance becomes music and music becomes dance. And we did another first project with more dancers and musicians, and now we made a new theater show, which is really about, it's an autobiographical show, where we really go a step further. So I'm really dancing actually, or moving. I call it moving.
Autobiographical, both of you separately, or
Yeah, both. So there are two storylines, and it's about it's called A New Dawn. It's about how you can decide when the day starts, how you fill in that day, and there's a lot of struggles you have. Like there's outside factors that influence that day, and we try to show that, like, to be open about the problems we faced or we encountered. But that through our love for music and dance, we find this friendship that also is kind of interesting, that a breakdancer meets a classical percussionist, and they become friends and they make a show together. So the physicality there actually goes a step further, where I'm not only playing, but also with him moving on the floor.
Okay, great. And what is how did you come to this idea of making something autobiographical of both of you? What was the process of that?
Well, I had a very tough period last year. I was very
Who
ill.
hasn't?
Yeah, who hasn't? Yeah, but mine was very tough. I had a melanoma, skin cancer,
Wow.
and it was a possibility that it was metastasized. So that was really tough, facing, like, literally thinking
Scary,
about
man.
if, yeah, it's
Scary.
very scary.
Scary.
I had surgeries, and literally thinking about if I'm gonna die or not, and
Yeah, of
that
course,
just
yeah.
too early to have to think about that or go to these kind of hospitals.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
32.
Yeah, so it's and Redo was born without a right leg, no right hip. So he has this physical thing that people see, and he has been dealing with his whole life. So we thought we were just talking about this because luckily it's good news, and it wasn't metastasized. I'm completely healthy.
Wow, good.
But that was actually just last year, like around just before the summer. And in September, our creation process started. So I was completely in this still and completely processing everything still. And just talking with him, because he's such a positive guy, because he had like a struggle already his whole life, but how he faces that is just so great. Like he finds the quality. He developed his own dance style because of his, his people call it a disability, but it's not a disability. It's like a different ability.
Yeah. Nice.
So his dance style is so beautiful because of that. And we were speaking a lot about this, and I said I need to process this, and maybe the show can actually help me to do that. And also, some people get born with something, and some people just something happens. Like it can happen to anyone. So, and what do you do then? And then the vision of a new dawn is basically how we try to live our lives, basically. So I wrote a lot of music in that time. There is a song in the show that is called Daydreams, which I made on the attic of my sister. I was staying there because I wanted to be with family. And it's a very positive song because I wanted to make myself and everyone happy, and to give them hope that it would all be fine. So this kind of music is in that performance. We don't talk about really concretely about it. It's there, but it's there so that everyone can think about their own life and what that would mean for them. So these kind of values and topics I find very valuable to work on, and it helps me as a person also. And I guess that will also resonate with an audience because it's universal. Anything can happen every day, and that doesn't mean you need to be scared, but you can take this vision of a new dawn and decide on the steps you are going to take.
Beautiful, beautiful. When is it playing? Does it have dates running already, or?
Yeah, we just did 6 shows, and tonight we have a new performance. So
it's not going to come out tonight. So.
Yeah, tonight it's in Tilburg, and then we are
nice.
tomorrow. We have 4 shows this week. Just talking about physicality is a lot.
Yeah,
and then it's still until the 15th of March. Then next year we do a few more in the Netherlands, and we probably go to Hong Kong Arts Festival with the show. So that's
fantastic.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. Awesome. I gotta see it. My wife is from Tilburg, so it's yeah.
We also play in Haarlem still on the 14th and 15th of March. So there's a website, anewdawn.cc. Then you can find everything about the show, and also there's like stories and there's an album coming out. It's going to be my first album, which is another thing. As a classical musician in the school, they told me a lot like, don't compose. You're not a composer.
Why is this happening?
I don't know.
That.
And
I mean, because you're learning. It's such a. I'm sorry to cut you. It's just that. Such a bizarre.
I see your frustration, and it's true.
It's the thing is, you are studying the music of extremely creative people.
Yeah.
Like that were amazing improvisers.
Yeah.
And amazing creatives.
Exactly.
Chopin, Beethoven, Mozart, they were all just playing, literally.
And then they wrote it down for someone. Yeah,
and then they were like, I need to sell, or I need to, this Duke is, commissioned this and this. But they were just creating the whole day, and they were amazing improvisers also. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it got institutionalized, and then the whole thing, and then all the creativity out of it got castrated.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that's what I think is a conservatory. So we conserve music that has been written in the past, and you want to, it's like you have a painter who is going to repaint the Night Watch of Rembrandt, and then the best one who can do it. That's kind of what we try to do with the classical music, I think. But
is it sustainable? I know it's a very big question now, but is it an actual sustainable module in the sense of the preservation? It requires it's a lot of resources and energy to preserve this, which is important. Don't get me wrong. This is the history. why is it so rigid also in that sense that they suppress? You're a composer, you're a creative, and they suppressed it. They thought, you're not a composer.
Yeah.
Just play this program. Shut up. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not saying this in this
Yeah, maybe that's too maybe that's too tough on because it also could have felt like that because of the institution. So it doesn't mean that my teacher have said it like that so concretely. Like, I don't want to blame anyone for that, but because it's the atmosphere that creates that. It's not only one person. It's the institution, I think.
Right.
And it's the program and the curriculum, and also, teachers teach there and they have to follow the curriculum. So if the curriculum doesn't give that opportunity, then, so it has a lot of factors why something is how it is. Going back to your question about why do we preserve that? I mean, I love going to the Concertgebouw Orchestra and listen to Mahler, and I love it. I love to hear this music again, and that's great. But we also need to create space for new stuff and having people experiment, and that goes back to the topic we talked about, like selling tickets. People buy a ticket to go see Beethoven 5, and then if it's a good conductor, the hall will be like more full. And then it's, like I always say, there are three things why people buy tickets from a programmer's perspective: is the repertoire, in the classical world at least, the repertoire, the instrument, and the artist name. Like, you have Beethoven violin concerto, hall is like 60% full. Then you put Janine Jansen, hall sold out, and violin. So it's like these kind of three things. They're important. And with percussion, like, the composers are not known yet because they're all new. People with percussion think a lot of times it's going to be noisy and it's a drum kit.
Exactly.
And then they need to go on the name. But how do you develop your name when those other two are not really helping you?
It's like this joke, of someone coming to a job interview, and it's like, do you have any experience? And they're like, no, I need the job to have the experience, but I cannot hire you for the job if you don't have the experience. And it's like,
that's why these steps are so important, and that's what I dream of, is an institution actually that is so open for makers. So if you are a young maker, you can just go to the institution and knock the door and say, I have a great idea, and then they say, come in, and we have a marketeer, we have a salesperson, we have a whole team for you. You sit down and you start to develop that thing. And we should talk after this. I mean, that's the thing I try to kind of develop, and I try to make this environment for myself. I have a foundation, I have a board, we can apply for fundings. I have people around me that do the project management. I have a management in London.
Awesome.
So I try to set this up. I bought like for 200K of instruments or something over the years, but I got a lot of sponsors also. And it's a lot.
Awesome.
It's a lot of work, and it's a process of 15, 20 years. But you want to create this that it's more open, and that there are places for that. You need to have both.
Yeah.
We want to preserve that was there, because that's what's rich, and that's where we also can get inspiration from. And but we also want to create space for the new things to explore. And I really believe that it's not about that things don't sell or something. It's just that we didn't organize it. I'm 100% sure that there are a lot of young people and also old people and people from all colors who love new stuff. And what you said, if you do something from your passion, there are people who will love it, but it's not organized.
Yeah, and it's also getting to the right people. And I feel like that since the revolution of social media and smartphones and all that, a lot of the conventional marketing schemes, they just don't work anymore. They just don't work. You can get directly to the people, because we have this thing that is running right now, which is the algorithm.
Yeah, exactly.
And that algorithm does 98% of the job for marketeers, actually, in the sense of it aggregates all the data. It aggregates every single interest that a person has, and you can do the market audience, like you can market it to the right audience, to the people that are looking for it. This is how we do it with my business, at least, and it's been shown to be successful also in areas that have zero audiences. Zero.
Yeah.
And
that's full. Interesting.
It's full. Because what they think is, let's do the boost post on Instagram. Bad idea. Everybody, do not use boost post. It's money down the drain. Period. You have to do the meta business suite. You have to do targeted ads that are connected to people with the same level of interest. You can see who is engaging what, the number of seconds, the number of this, and
it's very easy actually.
It's
now
way
also have
easier.
This algorithm that then you put different content, and then it starts to decide which one works the best.
Exactly. So you need to actually run, like we're running on a regular basis about 8 different shadow posts. To different interests, and then we see what works, and then we cancel, and then we aggregate, and then we just move the resources to one. And it's like, but in the past, you would have to put billboards outside, and you would have to, no one sees it. You have a thing, you have this little thing that people are just like connected to it most of the day.
Yeah, totally.
And the algorithm is constantly changing, and then you get to the right people. With that, you know, a funny thing is I played in Verkadefabriek in Den Bosch, and someone came up to me and he was like, you know, I saw the ad and I bought the ticket. I thought it was Avishai Cohen, the bass player.
Oh yeah.
And I was very disappointed when I saw you on stage, but then when you played, it was okay. It was worth the ticket. You know.
So it's honest.
It's the South, you know.
It's a little bit rude, but
it's the Brabant. You know?
Yeah.
But I mean,
hey, I'm from the South. Watch out.
Yeah. My wife is from the South, so I know it. But I'm saying that, okay, this is how you build an audience. You know, this is. I mean, at least the technology.
And it's interesting that you say that, like, because I put so much effort into. Still a lot of effort into the music and the art, and when I make budgets, like they're pretty big budgets now for these projects, and then you know like, okay, we need money for lights, okay, but then they ask, can we have like 2,000 more? And like, yeah, okay, so take it off the marketing, you know. And a lot of times I see that we are making something that is so unique, and then we kind of forget about the marketing. And
marketing is really, I mean, it's really integral. I mean, it's integral for the brand. I mean, it's like
but it's not something I want to be busy with at all.
But that's why you have to hire someone. I
exactly.
mean, I don't do it myself. I have the knowledge because of the person I work with. But it's like I outsource it. I have to, and I spend a lot of money on it. But it's coming back. You know, and I mean, that's a thing that. Market has this word, marketing. It's just building audience. That's how I look at it. It's literally
reaching people.
Reach. How much reach do you have? You know, and there are really like brilliant works out there. Really, like the second coming of Christ just landed in a form of a musical creation. Without the right reach, it's just going to be echo chambered, you know, because this is also a thing that I don't know if it's like this in the classical world, but in jazz I saw it a lot. Very echo chambered, very like a friend is selling the concept to a friend that is selling the concept to a friend that is selling, and then it's just like
it's in a bubble.
You're in a bubble, and then the bubble is very small, but the way to actually keep it sustained is if you bring people from the outside, you know, that are not, they don't know you. You know, they don't, but they got really hooked on what it is that what is the emotional journey that you're giving it to them, you know? Because what you're telling right now with Gedo, this production that you have, is something that can speak to so many people.
Totally, yeah.
And it's like everybody had fucked up struggles. Everybody went through like, there are way more people that went through a near-death experience or disabilities or different abilities, like you said, you know, that are waiting actually for this thing to happen, you know?
Yeah, and that was for me, like, going back to composing, like, Rede was actually one of the first people who said, but why don't you just make something? That was like 2020, you know? So it's quite recent. And before I didn't really compose. When I was in high school, I was composing, and the history teacher smacked my butt because he said, "No, you need to do history now. You cannot be busy with music now." So, but then I went to the conservatory.
Like geschiedenis, just history, like in school, like general geschiedenis.
Yeah. Okay. So in the conservatory, I kind of lost that, which is it's. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an opinion about it now, but the composing actually, when I was ill, the composing helped me to process a lot of my emotions. I'm now also working on a composition for orchestra, which I never thought I would be doing. It's it's a kind of a challenge, but it's like a dance with my emotions. In that time, I wrote a lot. When I felt angry, I wrote music with anger. When I felt loved, I felt the dance with love, and it's becoming a kind of suite. And I have no plan for it. It's just my thing, and if it becomes nice, then maybe one day it will be performed, and if not, that's fine. It's my process, But the fact that he told me. And also, I worked with a painter who also said, like, hey, I start with a white sheet. Why don't you start with a white sheet? And these kind of collaborations are very, very eye-opening and important as long as you keep an open approach. And you can see what that, and in the end, it means so much for me.
And do you usually do, when you work in these constructions, do you work also just with a marimba or with your entire percussion?
Yeah, so I actually in 2022-23 I started because I was composing like more frequently, and people, when I did concerts, they said, I really love that piece. What was that? That was really special. And then I thought, yeah, that was my piece. And I started to figure out that people actually liked what I was writing. It's like, oh, maybe I should do this more. And then I started to think, like, what is my music style? Something that in the classical department nobody asks, like, what is your music style? Who are you? Like, who are you as an artist? So I just took like 2-3 months, and I started to produce electronic music. Like, I thought, I'm gonna make a hip hop song. I will make a dubstep. I'll make an EDM, whatever. I did like 15 different music styles to figure out what it is that I liked. And then I thought I'd go in the studio and I started to make my own stuff. So I call it now a percussive experimental electronica for myself. And it's just percussion with electronics basically together.
But for the outside, Dutch Schlager, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's sometimes with a drum kit, sometimes it's with synths, it has tablas, it has a lot of different kind of instruments, just all the stuff that I love to put together in a new instrument, basically.
Oh, great. And okay, so now we got to this point in the in the podcast where I'm asking some like fixed questions. And my first question, which is really important for a lot of people to know, is what was the worst experience you can remember off or on stage? Of course, not just your personal life, but I'm talking about professionally, that you can remember. That was really like, oh my God, this is kind of shaped you.
Yeah, I don't know if it shaped me. I guess it shaped the way how I work a bit. I was playing at Muziekgebouw Eindhoven, main hall, 1,200 people. And I made this new thing. I guess it was in the time that I started also composing a bit. So I made a thing with like synthesizers. Then we had these drum things there, and like big opening of the show. And it all worked in the rehearsal. And then moment to go on stage, and my computer crashed. And I was like, oh no, like this 1,200 people sitting here is like the presentation of our big project is going to launch. And it was like, I really felt horrible. We winged it in the end. We did something. And I had it another time also with electronics. So I had it once, and the sound engineer also forgot to put on the master button. So we were like looping and there was nothing sounding. It's like, what the heck? So those were so embarrassing moments where I thought, I need to, before I start to work with this on a stage, I really need to master these skills and really know what I'm doing.
But that's a positive thing, very positive.
Yeah, I took a positive note from it, but I remember that feeling that was really horrible. Like that you feel that because in the conservatory you learn to be in control, you learn to have that skill set to on any moment do that one thing on that super high level. And then you have everything under control, and then something stupid like your computer or something doesn't work, which is also a skill set. So now I'm like so much further with that. Yeah. So it's good to be open and to what I learned from is that you can be creative and you can like explore new worlds, but also give yourself the time in the studio to actually refine that and ask people who are an expert on that, like, how do you do this? And before you bring it to that stage that you came actually already because of your other skill set. So
how do you solve it now if your computer crashes? What is the solution that you found actually?
Yeah, so in the theater show I have it's a lot of electronics is going over internet, and there's like live sampling, there's triggers, there's backing tracks, there's like all the live effects, all different kind of electronics. I have a really good sound engineer. That's the first lesson. And then we have plan B and plan C. Plan B is like on my computer, and plan C is he has all the audio files, and if it really goes to crap, then he can start them. So I learned to make these backup files, basically.
Yeah, and I wonder if you didn't have these experiences on everything would just happen.
You probably wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it.
No.
So
unless I would have asked
positive.
someone who had the same experience as me, hey, can you give me some advice? But
what, you're working without backups? Are you crazy?
Yeah, I mean that's I'm also someone, I just dive in, and just also with the dance, I just dive in, I start doing it, and I will see sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and maybe that's also good. Maybe we need space to also fail sometimes and do something that doesn't work. But yeah, you don't want to do that in front of 1,200 people. That was not cool.
Were you sweating?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it was like, okay, kind of.
Oh my god!
But luckily, I could fall back on my playing. I did something acoustic with another guy in the end, and yeah, it was not it. It was not what we wanted to do, but.
And this bottleneck coming to that point, and then it's
it's horrible. But still keep creating, but also make sure.
That's another thing. You wake up the next day, okay, back on the horse.
Exactly.
It's like this thing cannot decide for you
exactly
if you're going to make it or break it. It's
totally
that's why I have a lot of these conversations. It's also what the common denominator is. Tomorrow we do it again.
Exactly.
And it's like there is not.
Tomorrow's a new dawn.
Yeah, tomorrow.
I mean, this is what it's about. It's really a life lesson. Like, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow there's a new day. You wake up and you start to do your things again. So,
exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's the valuable thing what we artists can do. Even for these kind of moments, this kind of projects that we do can give people, help people also.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was the best experience you had to counteract that?
Yeah, I think there were many. I guess and now a recent one was that I was invited by the Zaterdag Matinee and the Radio Philharmonic Orchestra to play a concerto by Daniel Bjarnason, an Icelandic composer, and I really think he's fantastic. And he wrote a piece called Inferno, and it's really difficult, like most difficult piece I ever played. But I also like challenges. The thing was, it was in October, but I was having surgery still in June. So I was like, am I going to make that? Wow. I don't know. Should I cancel that? But it was a huge thing for me to play in this series in Concertgebouw live on the radio. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. But the doctor said, I'm not sure if it's going to work. And well, long story short, after I could raise my arms again, because I literally couldn't raise my arms at the moment. I was really, I started to mentally practice first and study the notes. I have this whole practice philosophy that I work with. So I started to learn the notes, and then I started to slowly go to the studio again, find my technique again, and I worked my ass off. Like, I really pushed it, I pushed my body, and I pushed. Also mentally, it was like helping me actually to get out of this deep hole of crap.
Focus.
For a piece that is called Inferno, so it was kind of. And when I played that concert and I nailed it, and it was like I just loved it, and it was live on the radio, and the interview was like, something was happening here, and then I told my story a little bit, and that was a moment that I thought I could fly. It was like
amazing.
Yeah, so. That was only last October, but I think that's where everything kind of comes together.
Yeah, and it gives you fuel for another 10 years.
Exactly.
It gives you that's the thing that I was talking about with Joao just before we started. And it's like it's priceless. There is no if I would tell you, okay, I'll give you 50 million, but you can never play again.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
No, totally not.
No, so it's $1 billion.
Yeah.
No. 100 billion, $1 trillion. There is no monetary equivalence to it. You cannot equate it, because it's something that it's a feeling, man. It's like life makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
and that's what you want everyone to have, so that people don't get stuck in that one thing that they do because of something else.
Yeah.
Either that's people around them or a situation or something. you wish that for everybody.
And if you had the chance to sit with yourself from 10 years ago, you're 22, you're at your first year of masters, I guess.
Something like that, yeah.
Right? In the conservatory. But you have a chance to sit with yourself of now and sit with yourself of 22. For a cup of coffee, what would be the advice you would give yourself, your younger self?
I think to stay open, stay open and creative. That's a thing. But I think I've done that also. But one thing that I recently changed was I started working under an artist name, and that's something in the classical scene that is not being done often. So it's just called Dominique now, 6 letters, and I made so many projects, but they're all like different kind of projects, and they that's why it doesn't feel like a cohesion in them, but they're all my work somehow. So to build up that audience that you say, like I could have focused a bit more on building up that audience because people really liked it, but how do you take them from one project to the other? Like doing
the conversion.
Yeah, like in December I did a 4D sound concert in Concertgebouw, and now I'm doing a theater show with a breakdancer. But I'm sure that audience actually both would like both. But how do you bring people with you on your journey? I think that would be an advice to my younger self, because I was focused a lot on myself and my own projects and studio and developing, which is good. You know, it's fine to you need to develop also as a maker, because that's not what you learn in the school. So it's fine, but I guess that will be one.
So basically, more looking at like the dialogue between the artist and the audience, and how do you convert them? Yeah, I think it's a very, very mature way of looking at it, because then you're creating a following that following is going to sustain what you're doing.
Yeah, and also support. Yeah, exactly. Sustain it and support it, and there are of course people who do that, but if you would more consciously work on that, I think it will help you in the end also.
I mean, I can say from my end is I was so focused on the craft and the art and this, that for the first time, like since October 2023, when I went to my solo career, realizing for me to be a solo artist, I need to have a following, and I need to have people coming to the shows, because then I don't have any bargaining chip also with the venues, nothing. They'll just be like, you're just another, you're very talented, but like I need seats. I need asses and seats, you know? And
nice,
and it's just what it is. Yeah. It's just what it is. I mean, it's like you can't, like I said, you could be the reincarnation of Mozart, but no one is coming to see what you're doing.
Exactly, yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Let me take it back. It matters. What you're doing matters. However, if that doesn't reach people, there's like a reciprocation between the audience and the artist of where I'm creating something for you. I'm giving it out of me, and then it resonates back. And then it's like this thing, like you said, I'm creating these all different projects. If one project is sold out, there is no reason for all the other projects not to be sold out, because it's still the same artist.
But on the other hand, it's maybe a question back, because I did a lot of projects, and some of them just played 2-3 times. And I now thought back, that's such a pity that project only played like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. Why didn't I just, like a New Dawn, now we play 14 times and it's going to run still. And it's already running under that name for a few years now. Yeah. So on the other hand, isn't it good that I just did that and that I just built a lot of portfolio and experience? If I would have played the same show for 3 years, then I wouldn't have made 6 other productions.
Yeah, it's, you know, I don't think there is like an answer to it. I just think that the fact that you continue creating, that's what's most important. You know, that it doesn't become this like, I remember that there was a really important lesson for me as I went to, I was the arranger and the pianist of the Amsterdam Orkest for 2.5 years. And we had one project with ICK, the dance company. We did Ziel, Ruch. And we did about, I think something like 50 shows, I don't know. And around 40, it started to become a little bit of like maintenance work.
Yeah.
You know, instead of like, it was like, let's just play it, do the gig, punch in, get out, you know? Then I was like, oh, this is how it feels. Okay, this is how it feels when you're running through patterns and not through, there was no like creating anymore. There was just, let's just, oh, I know that this comes, oh, it's over. Okay, let's go. And this, of course, this is one example. It has a sustainable aspect to it, which it was sold many, many times, and it was sustainable for the artists and for the organization. However, when enough is enough? And I think that they just stopped it right in the right place, you know? Like Soldat van Oranje, for instance. It's running for what, like 13 years or something?
Yeah, but I spoke to the director from the company who funded that.
Yeah.
And they say they can still run for 6 years, and that's only people who come back to the show.
Wow.
So there's also, that's a commercial success story where people just they go and then they go back with friends and family.
Yes.
And it's also because it's something that, like, that's the thing, you know, people go to a show and they say, oh, this was great, you need to go. And then, oh, they don't play anymore. You know, that's what is happening a lot.
Yeah.
Like, so that's what I mean with, like, bringing your audience to different projects, because you don't want to play the same show for years or
20
whatever.
years.
Yeah, but the audience, you need to give them time to also to build it up.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I also wanted to say, is that the market is so saturated, so many productions constantly that are coming out constantly, like it's just a factory, that I completely feel what you're saying, of like working really hard, 3, 4 shows, and then next project, 3, 4 shows, next project. I did that for a long time, and that kind of grinds you. Also, that grinded me, because there is also a thing in a project, if it runs for a long time, that it matures.
Yeah, true.
You know, really important that it matures. And I saw it actually with Zeal. It matured. It's like we were so tight as a band, with the dancers and everything, that there was it's not that there was no room for error, but also when errors happen, it was fixed immediately. There was no synaptic space of, okay, what's going to happen now? It was more like, okay, oh, we know exactly what's happening. We know we did it so many times. And again, it's that like balance, because I would love to run with the same project for years. Would love to, because it will be so tight, but also I would not want to grind us to an extent of just not being present anymore, that you're just punching in, you know?
Exactly.
So, and what would be the advice that you would give students that are just graduating now?
First,
I mean, you graduated 10 years ago, so
I think the most important is to figure out what is it that you really love and like, and what makes you happy, and follow that path. Yeah. And don't follow the path because someone else says you should go that path. No, follow the thing you like and love, because you will spend a lot of time in it, so you better love and like it. Yeah, absolutely. Man, thank you so much for doing it. Do you want to plug anything? Do you want to talk? Do you want to plug in the sense of like you have coming up projects, more shows, anything you want to? No, yeah, New Dawn album is coming out. A New Dawn album is coming out before the summer. I'm playing in a few festivals in the summer. So my first album, so I hope you all listen to it. And very excited about that. Everything is available on Spotify and all the streaming? Yeah, it will be everywhere. There will also be vinyl. So great. So we are under Dominique, right? Yeah, Dominique. It's called The New Dawn. The album is called The New Dawn. Okay, perfect. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Like and subscribe. Do everything that we're doing. You know how it is. We have so much more content for you. Thank you again, Dominique, for joining for this podcast. And we'll see you at the gig.